Hey, Idea Coach is here to talk about UFC 163, with the results that took place with Jose Aldo retaining the belt against Chan Sung Jung. I'm going to really be talking about the light heavyweight division in this video and the upset win that Phil Davis had. Now, in my preview video, I said that Phil Davis is a fighter who's been pretty much on the level like Akiyama and Usman Parhars when it comes to poor matchmaking, having him fight these no names and giving him these other big names, consecutively, where he's not having any sort of consistent rise in difficulty with his opponents. I'm a little upset that he won, not because I was wrong and I picked Lyoto Machida, because I also on the video saying that I wish Phil Davis the best. But I feel upset that it's becoming a little clear that the UFC is really thinking about their future, which is a good thing, but at the expense of fighters who are, forget the noise, who are, although a little bit older, should still be considered the best. Now, let's think about this. If Lyoto Machida was to win, which in my opinion he did, and a lot of other people think is that as well, he would have fought either Jon Jones or Alexander Gustafsson. Now, if he fights Jon Jones, that's going to be a rematch. And Jon Jones went on to state that fighting Lyoto Machida was very difficult for him, but it was also the lowest buy rate that they had in the Jon Jones championship fights. That makes a big difference for him because he's a fighter that actually gets a piece of the buys. So he's not looking forward to having a low buy rate because it's less money for a lot harder work with a very dynamic fighter like Machida. With Phil Davis winning, now you have to remember this, Alexander Gustafsson lost to Phil Davis very convincingly back in the Abu Dhabi event that no one seems to talk about anymore, with I believe, an Anaconda show. Phil Davis moves out wrestling and really fucking schooled the dude in like 1 or 2 rounds. If Phil Davis wins, which he's done, it probably propels him to the #1 contender slot, where if if Alexander Gustafsson wins, then he has an automatic new threat to his belt, along with Jon Jones. There's 2 different options Gustafsson would have. If Jon Jones wins, then you have Jon Jones face off a fighter that he hasn't fought before. Now, I feel, I'm not trying to go down the conspiracy theory that a lot of people have taken with UFC 162 when Anderson Silva lost to Chris Weidman. It's beneficial for the UFC to have Anderson Silva lose at least 1 time in that division this late in his career to help the division out later on when he retires or moves up in weight or does what he's going to do. Anderson Silva's a troll. He's a fucking troll. I love him for it. But I know it's not for everybody. I know that he trolls the media, he trolls his opponents, he trolls Dana White. I like it, but I know that he's not everyone's cup of tea in that regard. I don't think that was a conspiracy. I mean, no one wants to get knocked out. I think if he was going to take the loss, he probably took the loss, with that knee bar that didn't actually get locked on. He could have just tapped to that, and we would have never known whether or not it was like him throwing the fight or something like that. Because knee bars, unless you're really, really into the action, you have no idea whether or not the thing's locked on properly or not. It looked pretty tight to me from afar watching it on the TV screen, but what it is in reality is something very different. I hope that the UFC respects guys like Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Shogun, enough to propel them more and more towards the title contention. Shogun, he's a young guy by age, but the dude's been fighting for, 10 years or so. So it's not like he's been fighting at a very, very high level. So it's not like his body had a lot of time off. I hope that, the UFC can still make these remarkable fights, but you have to think, but from another standpoint, if they're having Lyoto Machida lose because of low buy rates, how much do you expect Alexander Gustafsson to generate for them? I'm not too sure. And with the fight that just took place with Davis and Lyoto, I'm not looking forward to Davis becoming the #1 contender, at least not right now. If he has a good showing against someone like Shogun or, who else could he fight? I don't think there's anyone else. He lost to Evans convincingly. maybe if Dan Henderson would be interested in that fight, which I doubt that he would. He's one more fight away before Rocky makes him a number one contender. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think this is a conspiracy. Tell me what you think about UFC 162. Okay, guys, take care.